I did first the PPL because I had the money only for this.
Once you obtain your private pilot license, you can fly without getting paid for, but you can do many things with it.
Friday Tower, areas 3 Foxtrot, holding short, runway 31, ready for departure.
My first solo cross country like this was the part of the PPL triangle
From zero to hero. Discover the complete process to become a professional pilot with the European Aviation School of Barcelona, an exciting path led by experts in each subject, instructors, active pilots, and students. From zero to ATPL license, we will reveal all the mysteries and answer all the questions. We will fly, learn, and enjoy the adventure.
I did my private pilot license when I was 17. There used to be what is called a cadet program, a programa de cadetes, which was basically a captivating course for young students who wanted to be the pilots. And I did that in Sabadell when I was 16, 17.
So in my case, because I already had some flying hours on ultralight, when I started my PPL, it was like reassuring, because I felt like in the ultralight field I didn't have enough theory, enough training in this sense. The flying instructors were very, very good, but in the theory part I felt it was a bit weak. So that was solved in the PPL. The PPL, the theory is a bit more advanced, and it gives you, in my opinion, the amount of theory needed in order to start flying around in an aircraft.
I did first the PPL because I had the money only for this. And I said, okay, I start and maybe I finish in 10 years, but I just start. So I did the PPL. Then actually in the day of my exam, we were celebrating my exam, and I met a guy that he went to the States. So this guy gave me the contact of the people in the States that I contacted. I did the change of the license to the FAA, and I went there to do the time building because it was much cheaper.
Which is, you get a few hours, you get your first flight solo, as you would in any school, which normally takes about 16, 18 hours. And then you get to fly a few, right? You get to fly, you learn how to navigate BFR, then you do a few solo hours. So in the integrated, you don't finish on the 40 hours. You actually continue flying solo and getting more hours, which is until you get the legal required hours of cross-country flight for your CPL.
Pues mi experiencia con el PPL fue un poco anormal, por así decirlo, porque yo empecé a estudiar lo de piloto justo después de la pandemia. Mi PPL empezó en abril del 2020, entonces hubo bastante incertidumbre porque no sabíamos si íbamos a poder empezar o no, hasta que la escuela recibió la aprobación de poder hacer las clases online. Y fue un poco duro porque no llegué a conocer a ninguno de mis compañeros presencialmente, porque de principio a fin el PPL fue online. Y ya me empecé a relacionar más con ellos cuando empezamos a volar, entonces fue bastante raro. Es algo que no suele pasar, la verdad.
But I do remember I was very excited to be a pilot and start flying different aircraft, and so for me it was like the big first step towards what the future would hold, which in this case would be, becoming a commercial pilot.
Right? So once you achieve that license, you are able to go from one airport to another airport. For sure that in the course we will teach you how to handle an aircraft, but the idea is that you do it on yourself and you are able to find the information in order to go to the rest of the airports that you have never been there, how you arrive there, and with a good preparation and taking in account as well the weather and all the other possibilities like let's say NOTAMs or the possible issues that you are going to find in the way to go.
So it was a lot of fun, basically. I was flying here in Sabadell with Cessna 150, 172, and I did my training there with instructors that now are in Iberia, in Vueling, in other places like this, and we became actually friends. So it was fantastic. It was very good times. From the instructor point of view, the PPL course is the most basic course that we do here in EAS, and it's a course where we try to teach the pilots to become self-sufficient in the terms of being able to fly solo, rent an aircraft either here or somewhere else, being able to do navigation. We teach them some basics IFR, and basically to be confident enough to fly solo, and in case of those who want to become commercial pilots, to be able to start the next process, which is the time building.
In this episode, we're going to talk about a very important step, probably one of the most important ones, as it's your first step towards becoming an airline pilot. That's the private pilot license. Now, when you do an ATPL integrated, the PPL is actually integrated into the complete course. But when you do an ATPL modular, it's actually one of the licenses you have to get at first. So let's talk about that. Once you obtain your private pilot license, you can fly without getting paid for, but you can do many things with it. And you can even start your time building with this, which is your next step towards obtaining your commercial pilot license. You can use one of these aircraft, for example. The PPL is the beginning of the basic training of a professional pilot who chooses to do this training in a modular way instead of an integrated course. This concept is very important to highlight, since in the integrated course, as indicated, it's part along with all the other qualifications that we will be reviewing throughout this series, and are integrated into a single and complete pack. It is also an excellent option for those people who are not 100% sure if they want to work as commercial pilots, or if on the other side, they actually want to turn their hobby into a future career. That was my case in this example. At 18 years old, just out of high school, and since I was not clear about my future job, nor did I have the means or resources for an integrated ATPL, I opted for the PPL, since I was clear that in the future I would get the rest, although I wasn't sure when and how. This license allowed me to fly more than 400 hours in different single-engine aircraft until the moment I started the rest of the ratings, which was now at 30 years old. It's never too late. Although you cannot receive compensation or payment for flying, you can share the cost with passengers, and that reduces the financial burden. That's how I did my first 50 to 60 hours of flight, flying with friends, family, friends of other friends. It's a very fun phase. By the way, all these hours are used for your time building, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. At a legal level, it is important to highlight that according to EASA and the National Civil Aviation Authorities, direct flight fees such as fuel, rental fees, aerodrome fees, etc. can be shared between a maximum of 6 people on board, including the pilot. The validity period of the PPL license lasts for 2 years, and as such, it must be renewed every 2 years. To do this, you must fly 12 hours, you must do 12 touch and goes, and one of those 12 hours has to be with a flight instructor as double in command. The requirements to take the PPL are a minimum age of 16 years old with the authorization of the parents at the beginning, 17-year-old at the time of taking the exam, and also have the EASA Class 2 medical certificate. For students with intentions of later reaching the training of a professional level, it is recommended to directly carry out a Class 1 medical to ensure that the transition from private pilot to professional pilot will be possible in terms of medical requirements. A theoretical part of 125 hours of theoretical classes is carried out in subjects such as air law, human factors, meteorology, communications, principles of flight, operational procedures, performances, and navigation. And finally, 45 hours of flight training are done. At EAS, you will carry them out in one of our TECNAM P2002, JF, or P2008. At the end of the course, there will be official exams, in this case 9, and a PPL single-engine piston flight exam.
My time building was half in EAS Barcelona, where I was able to rent the Tecnam P2002, and I flew solo and I went all over Catalonia, some parts of Spain, I went to France, and even I was able to go to Italy, to Naples, and ferry one of the Tecnams to Sabadell. So that was a lot of fun, and then, but I was always, or almost always, flying solo in this sense. And then I used to rent a Cessna 172, and then I took my family, my friends, and I did this kind of shorter but more like discovery flights and things like this.
So I did my time building in the States because it was much cheaper than to do it here, and initially I didn't know if the hours will count, but I contacted people in Florida and they told me that they are certified hours with the FAA, so I just transferred my license to FAA PPL and I went there for 2 months.
Pues para mí la sensación de volar fue increíble. El poder hacer vuelos de 3 horas o un pelín más, que hacía bastantes vuelos larguísimos porque tenía que hacer muchas horas y al final eran solas, y quería hacerlo un día, pues si tenía buena meteo quería hacer las máximas. Y era una pasada poder ir a otros aeropuertos, a la SEU, bueno, la SEU no va solo, pero a Reus, a Girona, a pasar por el Delta, no sé, muy increíble. A mí me parecía como increíble poder ir a sitios que normalmente tardas muchísimo en llegar en coche y poder estar en 2 o 3 sitios diferentes en una mañana y al mediodía estar de vuelta aquí otra vez. Y sí, eso era muy guay. Pero bueno, yo en mi caso el time building lo hice casi todo bastante por aquí cerca, porque intentaba hacerlo siempre por las tardes después de trabajar, así que no tuve tampoco la oportunidad de hacer como vuelos muy largos, aunque algunos sí que pude hacer.
After a few weeks, a few months, or even a few years of flying with your PPL license, there comes the day where your desire and your actual resources are ready to start with the continued process to become a professional pilot. So now what do? You must meet a series of requirements at the level of flight hours and the type of hours performed. Carrying out these different flight hours is usually called time building or hour building. And that is what really is about, building hours, collecting flight experience until reaching the necessary requirements to jump to the next step of training. We will go over each of the necessary requirements in each of the following episodes for each necessary training phase. It is very important to highlight that a series of hours of this time building must be carried out as PIC, that is, as the pilot in command, the person in charge of the aircraft. Not only together with an instructor, it is equally important to know that many will have to be from cross-country flights. The first time I did a cross-country flight was during my private pilot license, and that was actually interesting because I remember going to Reus, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think it was in Reus, and for me it was completely new because I was used to just flying around Sabadell where I did my private pilot license. I was used to going to Echo Whiskey or whatever place around the area, but not going to another airport, another runway, another air traffic control voice. So very exciting. It was kind of the first time that I actually thought I'm a pilot. And then of course, getting the refuel and things that I had never seen before, or maybe I had seen in a different way, really excited me. And then from there, all the cross-country flights have been, all of them, an adventure. It's more of an adventure, the further you go. It makes sense, and especially if you're out of Spain. I've done some flying in the US and in Europe, and it really makes a difference to fly there because you learn a lot.
My first solo cross-country like this was the part of the PPL triangle from Reus to Lleida, because I did Lleida and back, I did Reus and back, but I never done this part, this leg of the journey. So it was a bit scary at the beginning because I didn't know the area, I'm not familiar with that part of the country. So it was a bit scary, but it was actually very rewarding. And then from there you learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. So you don't know the area, you don't have a GPS with you because it was a very old Cessna 150, but you start getting the hang of it, and then at the end it's fine.
And it was crazy because I was with a new here I flew Tecnam, low wing. There I flew Cessna for the first time in my life, high wing. The airspace was crazy. I didn't have no idea how the ATC will speak to me. The flight following, I had no idea, and I had to go because it was the first day. So I said, okay, I will not go straight away to New York. I will go around Florida a little bit. So I'm just gonna go down to Miami on my own, and I had no idea. So it was really crazy, but everything was super smooth on the end because I was super scared. But then once I took off, they actually gave me from one station to another station, and everybody was saying, yeah, continue, we're gonna forward you. And at least until reaching Miami, they were telling me, yeah, you can go here, it's a little bit cloudy on this side, you can maybe go, you can turn this heading or this. So they actually went with me all the way from the place that I started down to Miami. So it was super cool.
I have different feelings. I will tell you that I have slightly afraid. I've been there with the instructor, but in myself, I was thinking if I was able to achieve to reach to the airport. And then a feeling of happiness because finally, once I started the flight, I was finding all the towns that I was having my routing. And luckily, I did it great, so at the end it was not bad.
As a pilot, the first cross-country flight is a source of excitement but also stress. Regardless of this stress, it is always good to remember that proper preparation prevents a rather poor performance. EASA defines a definition of a cross-country flight as a flight between a point of departure and a point of arrival, following a pre-planned route using standard navigation procedures. Although at no time does EASA mention that the starting point and the arrival must be different. In this regard, we are going to end the episode flying, which is the part that we enjoy the most, correct? In this case, we're going to see an example of visual routing that you will practice during your initial flight phase in the PPL. For now, enjoy the flight.
Engine start checklist complete.
Completed.
Before starting, radio and avionics on,
Yeah.
120.8, and let's put standby, let's put 131.125. And today we are Aéreas
3 Foxtrot,
3 Foxtrot. We are in Romeo 3,
308.
parking 308, QNH, transponder, and we're using runway 31. And we have a local flight, not a local flight, a visual flight to Girona. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So shall we close this or let's leave it open? Ida 3 Foxtrot, good afternoon at Romeo 3, parking 308, ready to copy for a visual flight to Girona, eastbound departure.
3 Foxtrot, taxi holding point runway 31, wind 2203 knots, QNH 1027, stroke 7012.
Charlie Tower, Aéreas 3 Foxtrot, holding short, runway 31, ready for departure. We're now in Granollers.
It's 1559. You can hear the timer as well.
There it is.
Clock if you need
One exactly. Here we have it in local time 1659. So 1659 check.
it. Perfect. So now the next point is going to be in
Mataró. And it's
Mataró
gonna be
in 7 minutes.
in 7 minutes. Okay, so
Reaching Mataró.
Mataró, and Mataró it was 1606, and we're gonna arrive 1604, 2 minutes earlier.
We have quite a lot of tailwind.
Yes.
Okay, so we can write down here, so actual arrival 1604, and then we calculate next heading, next time.
Okay, so from Mataró to Calella VOR, the next heading is 055, altitude 2500. So we're gonna go here 055.